Vi har fået lukket Viktor Myrefors for Daiwa med på kysten, og hvis der er nogen, der ved noget om kystfiskeri kombineret med Daiwa-teknologi i Stænger og Hjul, jamen, så er det dig.
Yeah, I know a little bit too much, so we'll see if you can shut me up today. But Daiwa produces some really great sea trout rods in all price ranges, and the goal today is to maybe give a little bit of clarity on what makes the difference and what is worth spending your money on. So when you're looking for a new sea trout rod, we have many different ranges and many different categories. So we have all the way from the exceller and even cheaper, which are just a good quality rod without the best bells and whistles, but it's just something that works. But if you want to step your game up and have something really nice, there are two technologies in rods that I think are really important for sea trout fishing. And the one is combined. It's either HVF, which is high voluminous fiber, or the even more exclusive SVF, which is super voluminous fiber. And the cool thing about this, of course, the carbon fiber is extremely tightly woven, so it's very sensitive and very light. But the main thing is that normally when you create a rod, you roll it around a metal tube to get the right taper. And when you stop that, the carbon fiber will lay on top of each other. And on that spot, you will have more glue and more material, which gives a backbone to the rod that you don't necessarily want. And I'm sure that you have seen when people make custom rods or fly rods, when they roll the rod back and forth, that's to find that backbone, to know where to put the guides on the rod. But Daiwa rods are special. When we roll it up, we stop the rolling so they are perpendicular to each other, so we don't have that backbone. And what that means is that however you cast, or however you set the hook, or however you fight the fish, you know that you have the maximum control and power of the rod and the maximum casting length, and that's just a game changer for the coast. The second thing that I think is really important when it comes to sea trout rods is that we fish with longer rods, 9 foot, 10 foot, some people even longer, and some people of course shorter. But what happens is that when you have a longer rod, the ferrule very often becomes a weak point and destroys the action of the rod, because usually you have a nice bend, then it gets really stiff, and then the bend continues. But Daiwa has solved that issue with something that we call V-joints, and that's basically a ferrule that bends through the action. So you have one continuous action through the whole rod. And that's just so nice with these longer rods and more flexible, deeper bending rods for sea trout fishing. So if you want something that's really, really nice, my recommendation is find something with either HVF or SVF blank and find something with the V-joint. Of course, there are many other different things that make your experience really, really nice. But if you want the most short answer of what is important, those two technologies is what I recommend. So one more thing that is quite cool with Daiwa rods, especially the higher end ones, is that they are all produced in Daiwa's own factories. We have our own factories both in China and in Japan, where we make our own rods basically, and that's why we can produce all of these technologies. Many other brands, they share a factory, for example, but Daiwa creates their own, and our quality control is so extremely high, so we are always comfortable putting our rods on the market, and we are sure that whatever Daiwa rod you will buy, you will be a happy man or woman.
Jeg har selv fisket rigtig meget med nogle af de her Daiwa-stænger i løbet af vinteren, og en ting er helt sikkert, det er, at de kaster super godt, og de er virkelig, virkelig følsomme. Altså man kan virkelig mærke alt, hvad der sker derude. Kan du forklare lidt om det?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the blank is the main reason for the extreme casting distance, but there is also one more thing. Some of our rods, the higher end rods, they are called AGS, Marathon AGS, Shogun AGS, and that's basically air guide system. Those are carbon fiber guides. They are extremely light, so you get so much speed when you're casting. But maybe the most important part with the AGS guides is the sensitivity. You feel everything. They are so extremely stiff, and that transmits the vibration into the blank and then into your hand. And we also have the carbon fiber grip that Daiwa produces, the air sensor reel seat, which then makes it extremely sensitive. Everything is carbon fiber, very, very stiff, and it's just amazing for these small bites that you sometimes get from the sea trout. And I think that's a game changer. But mainly the air guides are very, very light. We usually say that all of the air guides, all of the guides on this rod weigh less than one normal guide on a normal rod. So you save.
Den er fjerlet.
Yeah, and it's so sensitive, so sensitive.
Nå, men vi skal også tale om hjulene fra Daiwa, og de er jo kendt som at være ret kompromisløse og altså helt op i øverste high-end klasse. Fortæl lidt om, hvad er det, der gør dem så specielle?
Yeah, I mean, our reels, in my opinion, are special all the way from the lower end all the way to the higher end, of course. But what makes the reels for maybe sea trout fishing so unique is what we call for air drive design. Air drive design is a technique where we wanted to make it as smooth and as light as possible to reel. But somehow the Japanese engineers, I don't know how, they managed to make it lighter and smoother, but at the same time stronger.
Yeah.
And that's quite unique. So you have a reel that is 30% stronger, but a lot lighter. And when I say light, I mean mainly in the startup inertia. Because when you do sea trout fishing, or at least when I do sea trout fishing, I do a lot of stop and go, slow down, go.
Og det er mange timer i træk.
Yeah. And this startup inertia, when you then, if you don't have the air drive design, it's like when you start up, and then you go. But with air drive design, you can basically blow on the handle and it will spin because there is no resistance at all.
Yeah.
And this is something that was released 2022 with the Exist. And since we have our own factories, Daiwa has their own reel factories that only produce Daiwa reels. We are able to let these technologies that we develop in-house in Tokyo trickle down to the cheaper ranges. So now, for example, the Ninja, which is our entry-level reel, also has air drive design. Of course, air drive design is available in many different parts of the reel. For example, the Exist has it in the main gear shaft, it has it in the bail, the spool, and the rotor, while the Ninja only has it in the rotor. But then, again, maybe the rotor is the most important. I don't know. In my opinion, it is. So you can get this feeling all the way from a really affordable reel all the way up to the most expensive reel that we sell, the Exist. So this is something that is a real game changer for sea trout fishing and something that makes Daiwa unique. So if you're looking for an excellent sea trout reel, I can highly recommend you try a Daiwa reel in any price range and it will not disappoint you. So, of course, the air drive design is maybe the most noticeable while you're at the water technology that Daiwa makes, in my opinion. But we have so many other things that just makes your reel more enjoyable to use. One thing that I think is really cool is what Daiwa calls the Mononoque body, which is basically the whole body is in one piece and makes it very, very stiff, very durable, and it's available in several different materials, from magnesium to aluminium to other materials, Cyan B, Daiwa's own carbon fiber material. But one thing that is really cool with that also is that you can put a bigger gear into the reel, so it gets more smooth and more strong, and that's something that's unique with Daiwa reels also. So you get a really strong, stiff reel with our big gear in it that is super smooth and super durable. One other thing that is really cool, especially for the coastal fishing, we all know that salt water and fishing gear are not always the best friends, but we have something that we call for MagSeal. MagSeal is a magnetic oil that prevents water to get into the reel and dirt to get into the reel. And how it basically works is that normally when you have a reel without MagSeal, there is a rubber O-ring that is around different entry points or weak points in the reel, and different materials then spin inside those rubber O-rings. But that create some resistance. So what we have done is created a magnet that goes around these different parts, and then we drop in oil that is magnetic and then seals this hole completely with the oil. Of course, if you don't want to spend so much money on a reel, you want an entry-level reel that still has air drive design, like the Ninja, for example, or the Exceller, that don't have MagSealed. We say that all of our reels are usable in the saltwater as long as you take good care of it. And how I do it, and it has worked really well for me, is when I get home from the coast, I tighten the drag to maximum. I start the tap water, I reel 10-15 times under the tap water, then I take it out, I pat it dry with a towel or with some paper, and I let it air dry, and then I open the bail and I open the drag, and then I let it air dry, and that way you prevent the most catastrophic failures that you can have. But mag-sealed, monocoque and air drive design combined, you have a winner of a spinning reel. That is something I can promise.